Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Now, today we have a very interesting mono-green Tron list. It makes a couple of decisions that I'm not so sure about, and one that I'm going to change. But this is the original list, as I saw it. This is a list that went 5 and 2 in a Modern challenge, and the first major consideration is the fact that it's 61 cards and playing 17 lands, which I'm not sure is the correct choice. It does play surgical extractions and warping wails and such. So this is very similar to the other list I was favoring a little bit ago. But the other major change is the fact that we're playing 2 Platinum Angels in the main deck. Now when I saw this list, I was like, oh, maybe it's budget. But then I looked at it for one more second and I realized, like, no, they're playing Karn, Great Creator, and all this stuff. And I'm going to make a major change to this list right here as we're talking, because Crucible or Worlds I'm not playing, and I'm going to put a Wurmcoil Engine in the side. Now, you could argue Platinum Angel might make for a better wishboard target, but I would say, actually, in the event that we're using Karn to wish for a threat, we're generally in a come-from-behind place, and in that scenario, Wurmcoil is a little bit better because it gives us value even if it dies, it gains us life, and it's a little bit hardier than Platinum Angel as a 6/6 instead of a 4/4. This creature is much easier to remove, despite providing a much higher benefit. We're playing All is Dust instead of Oblivion Stone. We do have an Oblivion Stone in the side. We're very green heavy out of the side, playing Force of Vigors, Wilts, and Veil of Summers. Kind of interesting to see 5 Naturalize effects, though it does make a little bit of sense to me. And now I'm only playing 60 cards with a 15-card sideboard, so I feel a lot better about this deck. The 17 lands and 61 cards I think is really questionable. And other than that, it's practically the same list, just with Platinum Angel to the one that I was playing. So I'm not going to talk about this too much more. I'm going to go ahead and take this into a league, and I will see you guys in round 1. I'm very interested to see how Platinum Angel is going to play out. I'm wondering if there's like a good combo deck that it just completely counters, like in game 1 or something. It probably is pretty decent against like Burn, because they would have to double spell to kill it. And generally at that point of the game, if you've got Tron, you just need anything to stay alive. It being 4 toughness is pretty good. Alrighty, round 1 we'd like to play first. We've got 2/3 of Tron, a green source, and a Chromatic Sphere, so I think we're going to keep this. We have 2 different threats we can play off of Tron. So we're going to lead on Urza's Mine into Chromatic Sphere. This is really good if we draw a Sylvan Scrying. This is really good if we draw an Ancient Stirrings. It's really good if we just continue to draw Chromatic Spheres and Stars, really. So our opponent leads on Ignoble Hierarch. We draw an Ancient Stirrings. So I'm going to cycle this for green and see what we draw. We draw Surgical Extraction. So now we have the option of either casting Ancient Stirrings or casting Warping Wail. And I don't know what my opponent is on. This could be like the Zombardment deck. It's not Luris Jund. It could be Jund Combo Goblins. And I think because I have a green land, I'm going to Warping Wail to make my opponent stumble. There's always the chance that I top deck a tower, and then this becomes insane. But interacting with my opponent's turn 1 play when they're a deck that's this low to the ground, I feel like is important. Especially when it was providing a color they didn't have. So if my opponent doesn't have a red land and they needed to play a 2-drop red thing, they won't be able to this turn, which would be good. Okay, Wall of Roots. Birds of Paradise. Okay, so this is... this could be Yawgmoth combo. I'm not super familiar. We'll get a tower. Pass the turn. We do have Surgical, so if it is Yawgmoth combo, we can interrupt any Infinite Sacrifice shenanigans, Infinite Persists. Hopefully Karn and Platinum Angel can get there. If we can top deck an Ugin, that would be the best case scenario. Okay, another Ignoble Hierarch. Currently all dorks. I'm going to pull up a Yawgmoth list because I am not... actually, let me see what this deck is, because I have no idea, really. This could still be Yawgmoth. They play all of the cards we're seeing, and I could see them playing Scavenging Ooze in the event that this is a... Yeah, it's definitely the Yawgmoth deck. Okay. So if we get an Ugin or an All is Dust, this is game over. Like from this position. Can we get an Urza's Mine? So I'm going to play Tower. I'm going to cast Ancient Stirrings here. I'll take a Kozilek because I will want to draw a bunch of cards. Then I think what I'm going to do is Karn Scavenging Ooze. Actually, I'm going to Karn the last card in their hand. Because if they're trying to set up for the combo, they need two Undying creatures, I think it is. Okay, we take a Swamp from them. But this leaves Karn at a ton of loyalty. So probably what they'll do this turn is they'll sack Nurturing Peatland, hope to draw a combo piece, and just try and like aggro us out. And the wider this board gets, the better a potential All Is Dust is. Okay, another Ignoble Hierarch. So like if we All Is Dust and they sack Young Wolf and we Surgical Young Wolf, then we can Karn a land and they're left with nothing. This is a strangely Undying Light hand for this deck, I will say. So they're going to attack us for 4. Okay, we go down to 15. They sack Nurturing Peatland, and they play a Twilight Mire. We untap. We draw another Ancient Stirrings. Well, I'm going to cast the Ancient Stirrings because if we get a tower, we can still play Kozilek, and if we get an All Is Dust, we just win the game. If I take Ulamog, I can't play Ulamog this turn, but I could play a Platinum Angel. I kind of want to hold on to Platinum Angel, so I'm going to take the tower here. Play the tower. I don't want my opponent to see Platinum Angel, because it's kind of an odd tech choice for Tron. Okay, we drew a bunch of Ugins. So as long as we can survive until next turn, we should be good. So I'm going to take out the Undying creature, and we'll pass. Now they can attack Karn with a Birds of Paradise and 2 Exalted triggers, but Ugin should wrap this game up immediately. Okay, opponent adds green, filters to double black. They get a Yawgmoth. So they can sack a bunch of creatures and shrink Kozilek. This gets them a bunch of cards to draw. So I think what they're hoping for is to get like 2 Young Wolves so that they can play it this turn and then just go infinite. Then they might be able to draw into like a land and a Blood Artist, I think, and that would kill us. But there's a very tight window for them to be able to do that. Grist the Hunger Tide. Okay. As long as we're not absolutely dead this turn, Ugin wins us the game on the spot. So, okay. So they're going to kill Kozilek with this Bone Splinters effect. That's fine. They sack Birds of Paradise. They can kill Kozilek or they can kill Karn. Odds are they kill Kozilek because the Annihilator trigger is going to matter a lot. If they kill Karn, we would wipe the board, then attack, and then they would have no lands, no cards in hand, and we would get the flawless victory. Really? Okay. I guess Karn being targeted, like, they're probably thinking, if we just sack, like, all of our lands and a creature, then we can Bone Splinters to kill Kozilek next turn. But that's not going to work. I think that was a high-risk, high-reward play by our opponent. And it completely loses to Ugin. So I guess that makes sense if they were just on the, well, if they've got Ugin, we're dead anyway. Okay, so my opponent is playing a bunch of Undying creatures. They're playing a bunch of Sacrifice shenanigans. Let's take a look at their sideboard really quick. They'll be playing Thoughtseizes. They may have Necromentia, which would be a big problem. If that's the case, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop... All Is Dust is actually not that great against them because of the number of Undying creatures they play. They play Geralf's Messenger, Strangleroot Geist, and Young Wolf. And All Is Dust does not exile. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut All Is Dust for Veil of Summer. And Veil of Summer versus just Thoughtseize is not that great. But if my opponent is playing Necromentia, I need a way to deal with Necromentia, or at least react to it. I think I'm going to cut a Platinum Angel for another Veil of Summer. Surgical is too valuable to drop in this, and Warping Wail being an exile for X1s is going to be really important. This can also hit Wall of Roots. It can hit all of their mana dorks if we want to limit them early. Natural Tron into Wurmcoil is pretty good. If we get Thoughtseized, though, this hand gets a lot worse. I think we still got to keep it because we're on the draw. Any green source unlocks the rest of our hand, including Sphere/Star. The only concern is a turn 3 Necromentia with this hand, or turn 2 Necromentia even. We draw Karn Liberated, play Power Plant, pass the turn. So if they Necromentia a Tron land here, we're actually probably done. It'd be a really hard fight to win, especially top deck, trying to top deck lands and only getting, only having 17 in the deck, or in theory, if they Necromentia a Tron land, less than that. There's the turn 2 Necromentia. There's nothing we could have done about that with this hand. We needed to top deck a Forest or Yavimaya, and if we had, I would have played it. But my opponent can just, like, name Urza's mine, and then, you know. I'll try and fight this one out, because we did get game 1, and I want to see if there's anything else they brought in that we have to be concerned about. We get a zombie, so we can pressure them, although that zombie is ultimately going to be pretty close to irrelevant. We're not going to be playing Wurmcoil until turn 6. That is, provided, of course, we get nothing but lands. We're really hoping for a green source here. Necromentia is a good card. It's very good versus a lot of combo decks if your deck can afford running it, and accelerating it off of a Mana Dork for a turn 2 Memoricide is really strong. We get an Expedition map. That is at least something we can play, which is quite nice. We are going to be attacking our opponent. Now, they have ways to gain a bunch of life, and they can completely stonewall this token. But if we can pressure them a little bit and get their life total a little lower, we might be able to recover enough. Especially if that was, like, the only trick they had for their whole hand. But it looks like they have quite a bit of mana and stuff to play, so... this is, I would say, a 95% to lose when you're in this circumstance. So my opponent can attack with Noble here, if they want to get in for 2 damage. And there's no reason they shouldn't, at least to my knowledge. If they have, a 2-mana instant of some kind, then I could see that causing us some problems. Okay, we're getting Thought Seized. So they can take Veil, they can take Ancient Stirrings, they could take Wurmcoil or Karn. If I were my opponent, I would probably take Ancient Stirrings here. They take Veil of Summer. Okay. We draw an Expedition map, so crack map. Let's get a Yavimaya, play Yavimaya, and play Expedition map. Pass the turn. If we can continue guaranteeing land drops, and our opponent just doesn't combo, or we happen to... they play Yavimaya. Okay, that's interesting. I guess that's like free fixing for them. They play Messenger, and they play another Wall of Roots. Okay, so they're out of action right now. We get a Chromatic Sphere. Blast Zone could do some work here, but I think what we're going to do is go tutor up. I guess the tech lands are more important. We'll say Blast Zone. And I'm going to Sylvan Scrying to get a Forest. Now, I'm getting the Forest because if my opponent draws another Necromentia, I don't want them to Necromentia a card that I just tutored into my hand. Even though that would give me another zombie, the token's ultimately irrelevant with my opponent having creatures that are this powerful on the board. We're going to just try and delay until we can get, like, Wurmcoil out. I'm going to chump here. Let's see what our opponent plays. Strangleroot Geist. Okay. We untap. We draw Karn, Great Creator. Do we have any good 1-drops that we could play in this Wishboard? This Wishboard's a little bit scant. Oblivion Stone would be good. I have no Surgicals to make it better. This is not a star, so I can't animate it, block, and draw a card. That would be great. So we need to get lands, is what has to happen here. Karn can sort of keep us alive by fogging. I could wish for another Wurmcoil. If I do that, I will, and they top deck another Necromentia, then at least we get 2 tokens, I guess. Let's lead on Ancient Stirrings. So I can take Warping Wail and I can get rid of Strangleroot Geist permanently while playing a Chromatic Sphere, but I think the land is actually more important. We will play Karn. Because Karn likely makes them split their attack so they don't get the Exalted bonus this turn. I have too many cards in hand for Ensnaring Bridge to be really good yet, so I'm going to wait on that. Just going to get another Wurmcoil here. Pass the turn. Luckily, our opponent's hand has not been super fast. Let's see what they top deck. Another Geralf's Messenger, okay. So I think what they'll do is they'll attack us for 2, and then they'll kill Karn. So Karn got us a Wurmcoil Engine and saved us 2 points of life in that scenario. I was going to say that would be a mistake if they attacked in that way and left Karn at 1. So they're going to kill Karn. We untap. We draw another tower. Play the Sanctum. Play out Wurmcoil Engine as our delay tactic. Now, if they get Yawgmoth, we die. We just have to dodge Yawgmoth for a couple of turns here. Wurmcoil Engine should completely fog the board. Dryad Arbor doesn't really matter. We untap. We draw another Karn. Another Karn is good. So I can either play Chromatic Sphere and Wurmcoil Engine, or I can play Karn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Karn, because I want to start exiling the stuff that has Undying. I'm not going to sack I'm not going to sack Sanctum. Exile Messenger. No reason to attack with Wurmcoil when we can keep it on defense for Karn. As long as they have 2 Undying creatures, we are at risk of losing the game immediately, because our opponent could draw into a Blood Artist and then infinitely loop sacks while they're gaining life until we're dead. Okay, opponent gets a Verdant Catacombs. If Karn survives this turn, we can then rid them of all of their Undying creatures and start attacking, which would be great. We untap. We draw Ugin. Okay, so now if we draw a land, it can just be completely game over. That is not very likely considering we have so few lands left in the deck. So play another Karn. We will not sack Sanctum because we need 8 lands. Take out the other Undying creature. Go to combat. We will attack for 6. We can start to pressure our opponent because they're going to have to start blocking. Now, they can attack and kill Karn Liberated, but we're not that worried about that because we're going to follow this up with an Ugin if we draw a land and another Wurmcoil if we don't. So we're gaining enough life. We shouldn't die to anything less than an infinite combo. I don't think they have any overrun effects. Actually, I should double check. They have Chord, Eldritch Evolution, and out of the sideboard, they don't really have anything that would be an overrun. So we just have to worry about like the combo effectively. They can attack with Dryad Arbor and get 2 Exalted triggers to kill Karn. I'm thinking about playing something. Adding double green. They play Yawgmoth. Well, I'm really glad we took out all of the Undying creatures, because otherwise we'd be in a world of hurt right now. So opponent sacks the Wall of Roots, draws a card. Now they could actually draw into like Young Wolf, Blood Artist, and we would just die. They don't have very many draws to do that because their life total is so low. But they do have enough mana to technically accomplish it. So, okay, they're going to kill Karn with the Exalted triggers. They apparently didn't draw anything too good. Okay, then they got a Young Wolf. I'm really, really hoping we draw land. I could activate Blast Zone and force them to sack the Ignoble Hierarchs and the Young Wolf. But I think we'd attack first. Oh, they're just going for the kill Wurmcoil plan. They play a land. I don't think that's a correct choice. Not when you see a Blast Zone on the field. Okay, we drew a tower, so it's ultimately irrelevant. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Opponent can sack their whole board, basically, but they don't have that much life. Opponent chumps. They're going to sack it in response. They're going to go down to 3. Now, I don't think they have any way to gain life at instant speed, so maybe I just Ugin uptick. Do they have a way to gain life at instant speed? Anywhere in the deck. Anywhere at all. They could Chord for a Baloth. They don't have enough mana. Is it safer to downtick Ugin? I think we just go for the uptick kill. Okay, we'll sack Sanctum now. We will get a Platinum Angel. Kill him. So they can sack 2 things to draw, but unless they have like a Weather the Storm in their deck, which I guess is possible, but I don't know why you would have it in your deck or sideboard that for Tron. Alright, they didn't find anything. Technically, they could have corded for something, and so they could have, like, I guess maybe corded for, like, Ooze and then maybe gained a life or something. But they had to have that in hand. They couldn't have sacked anything to go for that play. So that was maybe a little bit riskier. I probably should have just downticked Ugin to take out the board, but that deck really kind of folds without Yawgmoth, and my opponent didn't have it. They had good starts both games, and I'm glad that I played that game out because it looked pretty bleak after that Necromentia, but I'll see you guys in round 2. Okay, we are on the play against Yorion. This could be the 5-color Yorion deck with Tower Tron, so we're going to mulligan. This hand technically works, but Yorion decks are quite scary. So I think I'm going to mulligan again. Yeah, going to 5. It's not great, but there's not a lot of 4s we have. Tron mulligans pretty well to 5. Mulliganing down to 4, though, is pretty awful. I'm going to put back Karn. And I think I am going to keep only 1 land here. We do need to draw another land off the sphere. So this is probably Blink. It could be 5-color. And then there's also a Yorion Death and Taxes list. Okay, Temple Garden tells me nothing. They evoke Fury? Okay, so this is Yori and Blink. So they just put a Fury onto the battlefield instantly. We untap, draw Chromatic Star, crack for green, Ancient Stirrings, take a tower, rest to the bottom, play the tower, play the star, pass the turn. So if we top deck a Sylvan Scrying, or if we top deck a... ideally, we top deck a Urza's Mine, we should be fine. Opponent cracks a Windswept Teeth. So this is definitely the Yori and Blink deck. They play Renin 6. This is kind of aggressive, but I'm going to Surgical this Windswept Teeth. I want to see what's in their hand. Another Windswept Teeth. Their hand is not that great. Oh, this is actually like a Blink Omnath Yorion deck. Okay, so this is a completely different list. But we got a little bit lucky. They had another card we were hoping to nab out of their hand. They're holding a Snow-Covered Forest and, of course, a Lightning Bolt. We draw a Power Plant, sack Star for green, get a map, play Power Plant, go get mine, pass the turn. So now we can cast All Is Dust to take care of both Renin 6 and Fury. Opponent may play Snow-Covered Forest and then just put Yorion in their hand. They're holding a Lightning Bolt and one other thing. Yeah, okay. So we're taking a bunch of damage. We get a Sylvan Scrying. So I could go Land, Creator... Ensnaring Bridge. I think it's better to do All Is Dust, though. Because Lightning Bolt has us at a virtual 2. If I top deck another Tron land, I can Karn Great Creator into Platinum Angel or Wurmcoil. Okay, so they play a land. They're holding Snow-Covered Forest, Bolt... Or no, they're holding Bolt, Yorion, and one unknown. We draw another All Is Dust. Do I have anything 5 or less that would be good here? I could put Chalice on one, but there's a real potential that hurts me pretty greatly. I could go Liquimetal Coating, but if I wish, Karn dies to Bolt. So I think we're going to wish for Wurmcoil Engine, even though we can't do anything with it this turn. I could go for Sundering Titan, which would take out all of their lands. But if they draw a 5th land and play Yorion, I guess I have All Is Dust for that? Okay, let's go for Sundering Titan. Pass the turn. Opponent is saving Bolt. They Abundant Growth their Snow-Covered Forest to draw a card. So we're dead to, like, Bolt, draw Mountain, Bolt. Okay. Sundering Titan got us there. Now, versus this deck, I think Surgical is actually good because they play, like, the Evoke cards, so there's a chance we can nab them out of the grave. I don't know how good it is, though, against a Yorion deck. So, like, Surgical and Memoricide are really good for hitting multiples of the same card or taking out a card you absolutely can't deal with, provided you can at least get one in the grave somehow or your opponent naturally puts one in the grave. The problem is a Yorion deck is an 80-card deck, so the percentage of cards in your opponent's deck that you're actually dealing with is a lot lower. They don't really play black. They don't play Hand Hate, best I can tell. And of course, every Yorion deck is going to be a little bit different because there's more space for people to side in stuff that they feel is relevant. If we bring in the Wilts and Force of Vigors and stuff, our opponent does play enchantments. It's possible that they have like Blood Moons and stuff, but it's also possible that like Liquimetal Coating starts to become a murder for stuff that we otherwise wouldn't be able to deal with. So we'll try dropping Surgical. I think we bring in 2 Wilts and a Force. And the reason that I'm not bringing in a bunch of Forces is because I just don't know. We don't have that many green cards to pitch. And I think just having one is probably reasonable enough here. All right, let's try like this. Do they play like Saga? They do not play Saga. At least the lists that I'm looking at don't. And I'm not going to go back and review the footage because I'm lazy. Yeah, that Surgical actually made our opponent... they didn't miss a land... No, they did miss a land drop. They missed their last land drop. So that Surgical was actually really awesome. I don't personally respect any Yorion deck that doesn't play Panglacial Worm. I love Panglacial Worm. That's basically what that statement boils down to. Yorion's a good deck. We're going to mulligan this. Alright, this is a lot better. It's not perfect, but it is a lot better. I'm going to put back Sylvan Scrying. I like having access to the forest just in case there is a Blood Moon somewhere involved, or a Magus of the Moon or something. Opponent leads on a Stomping Ground untapped. So, Abundant Harvest. They reveal a Misty Rainforest. So these are the 2 cards they currently have. We untap. Draw Chromatic Star. Play Power Plant. Play Expedition Map. Now, I like... I still am glad that I put away the Sylvan Scrying. Like, it's true that Star Scrying is pretty good. Okay. We're getting mooned. They name Tower. That's fine. We untap. We draw Blast Zone. Blast Zone is excellent here. Players is mine. Pass the turn. We'll leave up Warping Wail. So Blast Zone should be able to take care of that moon. They play the Misty Rainforest. They get a Triome. Untap. They play a Flooded Strand. They crack Flooded Strand into a snow-covered island, into a Teferi. Do we do anything about that? Let's go. If that were anything else, I could have left up Warping Wail. Okay, they down tick to draw a card. Unfortunately, I can no longer Warping Wail to make a token and kill Teferi, which would be excellent. We're gonna go get a tower. Untap. We draw All Is Dust. So play the tower. Play Chromatic Star. We're forced to play on our own turn here. So I'm gonna sack Star for green. Get an Ulamog. And I'm just gonna make a token. This is not useful as a counterspell here. My opponent has already down-ticked Teferi, so it's not like they can just bounce the token and we'll get no value. They up-tick Teferi. They Spreading Seas. That's bad, actually. Because now our Blast Zone has to try and deal with 2 different types of permanents here. So, start by playing Blast Zone. Go to combat. Attack Teferi. Put him at 1. Then we will play Star. We're kind of hoping to cast an All Is Dust, basically. Which means that creating this Eldrazi token was actually quite good. Now, I could sack Blast Zone if I needed to. By using the Scion for mana. That would unlock Tower, and if I draw a mine, then I would be able to... All Is Dust with impunity, basically. So opponent plays Omnath. They're going to fetch... Or they gain life. They're going to fetch a Steam Vents. They get a bunch of mana. Abundant Harvest. They get a Dovin's Veto. And they put Yorion in their hand. So they don't have mana to Dovin's Veto now. So we're basically going to hope to draw another Urza's Mine here. We're not going to have the mana to All Is Dust next turn. We effectively have to top deck Urza's Mine. Take out the Alpine Moon. Untap. We get an Ancient Stirrings, but that doesn't really help. Ancient Stirrings. Okay, we get another Urza's Mine. Rest of the bottom. There's a really good chance we're dead, though, because our opponent has an active Omnath, and now they have a Dovin's Veto to protect it. So unless for some reason my opponent doesn't suspect I'm going to cast a big non-creature spell here. Okay. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand. They gain a bunch of life. They crack Flooded Strand. They get a ton of mana. So unless my opponent mistaps and, like, spends a bunch of mana and somehow doesn't kill us. Okay. They have a second Spreading Seas, which is really unfortunate. That was basically what we had to dodge. The problem is, even if I draw Force of Vigor, I can't answer both Spreading Seas because I can't cast Force of Vigor. Actually, my opponent can flicker the other Spreading Seas and put it on Tower, and now we're a million miles away from doing anything. Yeah, so they can put it on Power Plant, put it on Tower. They draw a bunch of cards. They have mana for Dovin's Veto. Yeah, I still think I made the correct decision, but we can't come back from this. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the other Force of Vigors. I'm going to cut a Platinum Angel, and I think Warping Wail is less important now. I actually want Veil of Summer as well, and I think that's going to be a little bit better than Warping Wail. I'm going to cut the other Platinum Angel, and I think Wurmcoil. Because if any deck is playing Path, it's my opponent's deck. They also probably have, like, Solitude and stuff. This way we're maxed out on green sources if we need to Force of Vigor something, like Alpine Moon and Spreading Seas. We also are maxed out on Veil of Summers, which is like our anti-control tech. We're on the play, so as long as if we can get a hand that goes turn 3 Tron into threat, and our opponent has minimal disruption, we're in a good spot. I will keep this. My opponent just conceded? What happened? I didn't get a message. I have no idea what just occurred, but our opponent scooped. I guess they were scared of a keep 7? Like, or maybe they... Oh, you know what? I bet you my opponent Hang on, let's see if it'll show me game log. Nope. Okay. I was gonna say, I bet you my opponent did the Kano punt. It was like, I'm gonna keep this hand, and accidentally mulligans twice. No, it's just all right. Well, I'll see you guys in round 3. At least we got a little lucky there, I guess. All right. We will be keeping this hand. This is the Troniest of Tron hands on the play. So basically, as long as we don't run into Prismatic Ending turn 1, we're golden. And even if we do, we still have the option or the possibility of top decking Tower. So lead on map. Opponent leads on Forest, Arboreal Grazer. So it's looking like Amulet Titan. Players is mine, pass the turn. And if it is Titan, we still might lose, even with a turn 3 Karn. So opponent plays a Verdant Catacombs, plays their own Expedition map, and an Amulet. So crack, get Tower, untap, draw a map, and play Tower. Now the question is, what do we do? And I think the answer is we go get Coating, because if my opponent plays a bounce land, we can shut it off before they can untap it with Amulet. And then they can't use Expedition map. Play Coating, play our own map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps and draws. Okay, they play Valakut. So we're going to say Valakut can't tap for mana. And the game is over. Okay, for all of you in watching, and I constantly get asked this question, even by long-term members of the channel that I have said this answer to before. Amulet Titan is a horrible matchup for us, because while we do have ways to interact with their mana, we don't before turn 3, and you can technically die on turn 2 against this deck. So we're going to bring in Wilts, we're going to bring in Force of Vigors, I'm going to keep the Surgicals in the deck. I'm going to cut Warping Wail, because Warping Wail doesn't really do a lot if I'm thinking about this correctly. I'm going to drop All Is Dust, and I'm going to drop a Platinum Angel. And run it back like this. Now there's some chance, with Surgical and Artifact removal, that we can slow them down enough to actually win the game. But not with this hand, so mulligan. Well, it's turn 3 Tron with a Surgical, but it's not really that great. I will keep. I have to put back a card, and I think that card is Sylvan Scrying. Opponent leads on Saga. Okay, I'm really hoping we can draw like a natural or a Wilt specifically for that. Because if you can kill Saga before your opponent gets any real value out of it, you basically win on the spot. Okay, opponent plays a tap land. Top deck Wilt one time. Come on. Well, I think that counts, actually. So let's go ahead and Force of Vigor on their upkeep. Move to their draw step. Surgical Saga. Because now if they have... I was going to say, if they had another one in hand, they would be really far behind. Okay. So they don't have an Amulet, so they have to play Selesnya Sanctuary this turn. Then they play Sunhome, Dryad, and Castle, and then the turn after that, so like 3 turns from now or 2 turns from now, they can play Titan. Okay, they play Sunhome. I guess this means they could play Castle Garenbrig and then play Sanctuary. Let's go get Urza's Mine. If we top deck Karn, it's game over. Okay, we do not top deck Karn, but we do top deck a Chromatic Sphere. So play Sphere, cycle. Hey, how you doing, Karn? Get a Liquimetal Coating, and that should be the game. Shut off green mana. They evoke a Foundation Breaker to take out Coating. It's a pretty good top deck, but ultimately I don't think it's going to do it, because we just drew Karn Liberated. We could wish for, like, Trinisphere. I could get Sundering Titan, but I think Sundering Titan is best saved for another turn. So play Karn, take out Castle, down tick. Let's get Sundering Titan. Okay. This was basically the only way we beat our opponent, too, by the way. Like, this sequence of events, my opponent kept a bad hand, and our hand ended up being amazing. That is really your only chance against Amulet Titan. There's no other way to shore the matchup up, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you're playing in a relatively open meta, you would sacrifice so many other matchups trying to beat this deck. And if you're playing in a meta that's all Amulet Titan, I suggest you don't play Tron. Anyway, we're 3-0. I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, welcome to round 4, everybody. This is mulligan, I think. We've got better 6s, especially on the draw. This is really tempting. Any land gets us to Karn Great Creator on 4, so I think I'm going to keep. I'm going to get rid of a second Karn Liberated here, because if we get to 7 mana, I kind of want the option of the board wipe rather than the redundancy of Karn. There's a lot of decks that Karn Liberated is not good against, because there's a lot of decks that put a ton of permanents on board, and he really can only answer one at a time. I think this was a fantastic keep against any opponent mulliganing to 5, except maybe an opposing Tron player. City of Brass, Shriekhorn. Alright, we're against Dredge. We untap. We draw Expedition Map. Amazing. So this is one of the things that I talk about pretty frequently. It's also something that I need to remember quite frequently. But when you keep a hand that is 2/3 of Tron, think about how many good top decks you have. And for people who are frustrated about Tron being like a really good deck, think about how many good top decks they have. Like, top decking Sphere, top decking Star, top decking the 3rd Tron piece, top decking Expedition Map. All of which are 4-ofs, by the way. They are all fantastic top decks. So, play Tower. Pass the turn. The only problem that I have against my opponent's deck right now is the fact that I don't really have Grave Hate in the side to wish for. Opponent's going to mill themselves on their upkeep into another Otherworldly Gaze. So they will be able to get an Ox here, but we're going to have... Like, if they put a bunch of stuff on board, we just all is dust and reset the clock for a turn to give us a chance to draw our Ugin. And Dredge is another one of those decks that just flat dies to Ugin. Like 100% of the time. Because if they go for a big Dredge and they put a bunch of stuff on board and you play Ugin and then you wipe that board away, they don't have enough deck left to actually beat you most of the time. Especially if Ugin didn't like down tick all the way or get conflagrated or something after the fact. Okay, here comes the Ox. Opponent taking some damage. Prized Amalgam trigger. They ditch a whole bunch of Dredgers, so here comes the big Dredge. Okay. We can Creeping Chill, or we can All Is Dust after this to kind of reset the clock. They'll get back Silver Smote Ghoul and all the prized amalgams. Okay, let's go get Power Plant. Untap. We draw another Power Plant, so play Power Plant. All Is Dust. Tell our opponent to start over. They untap. So they can Dredge again. They can actually... Otherworldly Gaze seems kind of interesting in Dredge. I've not seen that yet. I wonder if that changes how we end up playing around it. Opponent gives up their Gemstone Mine and taps City of Brass for something. I mean, there's a possibility they end up with too little mana to actually win the game. Because, like, if I draw another board wipe, that's probably game over. I'm hoping I can empty my hand next turn enough to get an Ensnaring Bridge down. That may not be possible. Because I've got to get Ensnaring Bridge and less than 2 cards in hand. Or 2 cards or less in hand. Okay, we play the Tower to maximize our mana. Now I could either play... Let's see, if I play Karn Great Creator, Chromatic Star, Ensnaring Bridge... That leaves me with 3 cards in hand. It means the Ox can't attack, but we're taking 11 and going to 3. Which I think means there's a really good chance we would die. Alternatively, I can play Ulamog and take out 2 good creatures, like an Amalgam and an Ox, have a blocker for another Amalgam. I could Ulamog, take out Ox, and a City of Brass. No, I need to take out creatures. And Ulamog is the best way to do that. If Ulamog attacks even once, they die, so they have to kill us this turn. And it's not impossible. I don't know how likely it is. But they're attacking. They're going to hit us for 8. We would go to 6. If they have 2 more Creeping Chills that they can get to, we would die. If they have another red source, we also die. Because we'll die to Conflagrate. Okay, they get back some Silver Smote Ghouls. The game is over. Oh, we dodged it. The old no grave hate Tron. Okay, so versus Dredge. We do not have a lot versus Dredge. I think Wurmcoil Engine's coming in, probably for a Platinum Angel as a 1-for-1 swap. We do have Surgical, I guess, so it's not no grave hate Tron. But Surgical versus Dredge is always tricky, and I always end up playing it wrong, just because I get too antsy, and I'm like, that looks like good value, and then my opponent does something that's, like, utterly brutal using what they have left, and it's, why didn't I think about that? And the answer is, I got too antsy. So let me look up Dredge really quick, because I want to know what they're going to bring in for us. It's probably... Okay, there's really... It looks like there's 1 or 2 different Dredge decks here. So out of the sideboard, they're going to bring in Nature's Claim. They're probably going to bring in Prismatic Ending. They could bring in Thoughtseize. They'll bring in Ancient Grudge. A lot of that we can't actually interact with in any way. The only one... I might want a Force of Vigor, because there's a list that's playing Chalice. I think we just run it back, though, and pray. Our opponent did not see Surgical, so they will not expect a Surgical. This hand is decent, but it is slow, so we need a better 6 than... I can work with this. It's not fantastic, but it might function. We got a lot of good top decks from this position. Opponent did keep 7, which is a little bit intimidating. All right, we got Tron. We got Tron into Karn Liberated or All Is Dust, followed up by an Ugin, which is exactly what you want versus a Dredge deck. So, opponent, Otherworldly Gaze to start with. They put a Prized Amalgam into the grave with Otherworldly Gaze and a Scalding Tarn, and they put a card back on top of the deck. They untap. They play a Mana Confluence. Then, looks like a Thrilling Discovery or Cathartic Reunion. Cathartic Reunion. They're going to dredge a Dark Blast into a Thug, into another Thug, into a Creeping Chill, and Narcomoeba. So this is a very quick hand from the opponent here. We gotta hope that this is going to be fast enough, and it may not be. Okay, opponent gets 2 Prized Amalgams. Right before the Surgical, which is unfortunate. So we're going to play the Urza's Mine, and I'm going to Surgical that Ox on their draw step, I believe. I could Surgical Creeping Chill here. That would take away a lot of their burn potential, but I think hitting the Ox is actually better. So we'll be going to 12, taking 8, going to 4. Okay. Hitting Ox, I think, was the correct choice. Because that was, I think, how they were going to... That was like their next step of the game plan. Their hand being a whole bunch of Silver Smote Ghouls and stuff sucks, but... Because that means they'll actually have threats they could potentially cast. But if this All Is Dust buys us enough time to land an Ugin, even if they do another big dredge, as long as we don't die to Creeping Chills, we'll be... If I took Creeping Chills and let them have that Ox, that board would have gotten so much more massive. Actually, maybe I should have done that because we were going to follow up with an Ugin. So play Tower. All is Fog. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to flashback Otherworldly Gaze. We are dead to a Conflagrate. If our opponent can build a board, then Ugin should deal with it. But opponent discards Thug. Dredge. No real value. Okay, we draw Yavimaya. I'm not going to play Yavimaya. We'll play a Forest. Because they triple dredged and they didn't build a board, I'm going to play Karn. We're going to take out their Rainbow Land. Pass the turn. Now they can continue dredging, and there's a really good chance we're going to die. It's going to be too late to try and reset the game with Karn. We go to 1. They get a whole bunch of trash out of their grave. They got a discard to hand size. Stinkweed. We untap. Draw Expedition Map. We have no grave hate. So play Tower. Or play Map. Go fetch a Tower. Play the Tower. Nuke their last land. Play Ugin. -3. We have to get, like, Platinum Angel. Like, we have to top deck Little Karn and go get Platinum Angel before our opponent can find this last Creeping Chill. They didn't find it. We untap and draw Sphere. Play Sphere. Crack Sphere for green. Wurmcoil. Play Wurmcoil. Uptick. Pass the turn. They got to dredge and they got to hit Creeping Chill, and if they don't, we win. I think we got there. We Matrix dodged that last Creeping Chill, and we got there. We are 4-0. So this is a much, much luckier league than I have ever had playing Tron. I think in a very long time. We are 4-0. I will see you guys in round 5. Hopefully we can make the 5-0. I'll see you guys there. All right, we are on the play for round 5, and this hand appears to be excellent. We will keep. That's a really, really great way to start round 5, let me tell you. Power Plant Map, pass the turn. See what we're up against here. No companion revealed. Okay, opponent plays Den of the Bugbear Relic. So there's a really good chance this is like a Scred Red style deck. We're going to play Urza's Mine, play Sphere, crack Sphere for green, because we want to have a threat to play next turn. So we're going to Ancient Stirrings because we have all of the Tron pieces in hand. Karn Great Creator is probably our worst threat, but that's what we're going to have to work with here. I may go for Trinisphere first. Let me see what actually plays Den of the Bugbear. There is no modern 5-0 list for Den of the Bugbear, so if I lose, there might be. We'll get rid of Chromatic Sphere. I could technically wish for Chromatic Sphere then if I need to. Opponent plays a Mountain and a Braid's Expedition Map. Nice try, my guy. Karn Great Creator. Wish. Let's get Trinisphere. Play Trinisphere. Pass the turn. If they miss a land drop, they won't be able to play anything. It's not a Snow Mountain, so it's not Scred. It's probably like a mono-red list of some kind, though. Blast Zone. So if they've got another Abrade, they could Abrade Trinisphere, but they have to spend all of their mana to do it. They Firebolt Karn to 1. We draw Power Plant. So if I attack with Trinisphere, if I animate it and attack with it, I no longer have to pay the Trinisphere cost, but I also unlock it for my opponent for a turn. I think I'm actually going to do that because this way I have 9 mana, and that gives me a lot of redraws to find another 7 mana threat. I mean, Ugin's not a 7 mana threat, but he is a really good threat. So we've got 6 mana, counting the floating, so play Power Plant. Play Ugin. Shoot our opponent. Pass the turn. And Ugin is a threat that isn't Furyable, which is great. Now my opponent could use a burn spell to kill Trinisphere. They probably are playing a million lightning bolts. They bolt themselves for Shatter Skull. They have 4 mana now. They stomp Karn and abrade Trinisphere. We untap, exile Trinisphere. Untap, we draw Platinum Angel. So play Star, sack it. We have 2 draws at a tower to play Kozilek. Surgical, play Star, sack it for green, get an Expedition map, play map, crack for tower, play Platinum Angel, shoot our opponent, pass the turn. Next turn we have Kozilek, and we can alt Ugin. So that's pretty good, I hear. They will probably have to use some form of burn to deal with Ugin, and with any luck, the only burn my opponent has is Flashback Firebolt, which means they tap out to stop Ugin from ulting, and we get round 1. Now, I have no idea what my opponent's list actually is. All I know is it's like probably mid-range mono-red, which means we're going to want the Forces, we're going to want the Wilts. Surgical is a little less good, so we're going to drop Surgical. Platinum Angel into the side. I think we want Wurmcoil in the main. Warping Wail, they do have some sorceries that may be worth countering. I think I'm going to cut Platinum Angel entirely. And they play a lot of artifacts, so I think All Is Dust is actually a lot worse. We're going to try it like this. We're up in the final round currently. This could be the legendary Tron 5-0 that has been long overdue. But we still got to play very well. Now, I'm going to keep this hand. This hand gets a lot worse if our opponent abrades, but we do have our cheapest threat, which is Karn Great Creator. Opponent leads on a Spike Field Hazard. We draw Force of Vigor. Against a Blood Moon, against an Alpine Moon, we now have some game. It's really just a Abrade we have to dodge, and for 1 turn. Okay, opponent plays a Mountain. They've got the Abrade. Alright, our hand got a lot worse. We untap. They only have 4 cards in hand, though, and we're top-decking like Tron top decks, aka a god. Opponent plays a Blast Zone. They got a Blood Moon, but the Blood Moon will be insufficient. Untap. Play Tower. Play Karn. Wish. What do we wish for here? Let's wish for... I could put Chalice on 1. I could play Trinisphere. I think Chalice might be better. Let's go for Trinisphere. I could go for Sundering Titan. Let's go for Trinisphere, because this means whatever they're playing, they have to pay all of their mana to do it. Which might mean the choice between bolting Karn or abrading Trinisphere. They bolt Karn. If they miss a land drop, that's huge. Okay, they have a land. We untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. We can't play it. Play Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Any Tron threat. Any Tron threat is amazing. Obviously, like Ulamog, I think would be your best. Opponent plays Torch of Defiance. They uptick into Ragavan, which they can actually cast. And it looks like they're going to. Oh, they can't, because Trinisphere. We take the damage. We untap. We draw Force of Vigor, which is good. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. Blast Zone might be taken up to 4 here. Opponent plays their own Blast Zone. Uptick Chandra, getting a Shatter Skull Smashing, which cannot deal damage to us. Okay, we take 2. Opponent only has 1 card in hand, so we will be ticking up Blast Zone to 4 here. We need to put 3 counters on it, which means we need to spend 6 mana. Okay. Untap. We draw Karn Liberated. Well, I don't know what the last card in my opponent's hand is. Do we take a turn off to just Blast Zone Chandra? Or do we play Karn and uptick? I think we gotta play Karn and uptick on their last card in hand. What did I just get? Firebolt. Alright, that's not a bad grab. Opponent going to tick Blast Zone up to 3, presumably to deal with Trinisphere. We have 2 onboard answers for Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and she's still a turn away from ulting. My opponent's probably going to use her to draw another card here. The question is, are they going to crack this Blast Zone before? They do not. They uptick into a Lightning Bolt. If they cast Lightning Bolt, they will not have the mana to activate Blast Zone, which may or may not be a big deal. I shouldn't be auto-yielded here because there is a chance I need to Force of Vigor. I have enough mana to pay for it through Trinisphere. They do not pay for it. They dash Ragavan, go to combat. They attack us. I think they're hoping to hit like a Wilt. Sylvan Scrying doesn't do anything for them. Okay, they pick Ragavan back up. We untap. We draw a Chromatic Sphere. So, uptick Karn, take their Ragavan. Sack Blast Zone, deal with Chandra. Probably should have done this part first, but play Chromatic Sphere. Crack it for green, we get an Ugin. Ancient Stirrings. We have 9 mana currently. Okay, opponent's going to blow up Trinisphere. They're ticking up Blast Zone to 4. Take the tower. Rest to the bottom. Pass the turn. I don't know if I should have played the tower. I think I could have there. I don't think I played a land that turn. So they put Blast Zone on 4. I think that may have been a mistake. Because they're not going to kill Karn Liberated with Blast Zone. That much I can tell you. I could reset the game potentially and start with a Ragavan in play, but I think resetting the game currently benefits my opponent. If I draw an answer to Blast Zone and my opponent doesn't play anything too threatening this turn, I will uptick on myself to exile Ugin and then reset the game after the fact. So I'd have to draw like Karn Great Creator for that. Opponent plays a Blood Moon. We untap. We draw Ulamog. Alright. Let's win this game. Play Tower. Play Ulamog. Take out the Blast Zones. And the game is over! We did it! We have trophied with Tron. So we get to open some treasure chests today. We got 11 treasure chests to open. How great is that? Treasure chest number 1. If Moto can survive the opening of a single treasure chest. It is crashing. Okay. It's like, Kano's not supposed to win? We get an Obstinate Baloth and a Meek Stone, 7th edition, 5 play points. Okay. Treasure chest number 2, 10 play points and a Sedge Sliver. Treasure chest number 3, we get 5 play points, Baral's Expertise, and Molten Vortex. I have fond memories of Molten Vortex. Treasure chest number 4, 15 play points, and a Heaven and Earth. Treasure chest number 5, we get 5 play points, Dimir Doppelganger, and Dreadhorde Butcher. Treasure chest number 6, we get 5 play points, an Extended Art Territorial Kavu, and a Vermiculos. Treasure chest number 7? 7. Zergo Helm Smasher, 5 play points, and a Glamour Die. 4th to final treasure chest, because I've lost count. I'm not paying attention. 5 play points, a Lord of the Undead, and a Voracious Dragon. 3rd to last, we've got 5 play points, a Blood Chief Ascension, and an Oran Reef Ooze. The penultimate treasure chest we have 5 play points, a Gisa Glorious Resurrector Avatar, a Extended Art Guardian of Faith, and a Deserted Beach. And finally, our last treasure chest, we have 5 play points, a Hoofprints of the Stag, and an Inspiria the Inscrutable. Alright. Let's talk about the Tron list now. So, I was a little bit pessimistic, and I know I'm not playing the exact list that took 5 and 2 in the Modern Challenge or whatever, but I really don't want to play 61 cards in a constructed deck without a compelling reason to do so, and I really think that swap, because Crucible of Worlds is a completely dead card to me. It's so terrible in Tron. It wouldn't have helped in any of those matchups either, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, having that Wurmcoil Engine that we could wish for out of the sideboard, I think mattered one time, or was going to matter one time if the game continued on, even though we were favored. So I would rather have that than the Crucible of Worlds. I played a list very similar to this for a very long time. The Surgical Extractions, the Force of Vigors, they matter a lot. Triple Force of Vigor Wilt, I don't know if that's necessarily better, but Wilt is easier to cast. And by necessarily better, I mean necessarily better than playing 4 Force of Vigor. I do like the fact that we're playing enough green spells to pitch to Force of Vigor. I think that's very good. I think we got very lucky with this deck. I think if I was going to make further changes to this, I might put a Graph Digger's Cage into the sideboard for the Dredge matchup. We beat the Amulet Titan matchup, which is like the Nightmare matchup, just by getting really, really lucky. I will freely admit that. But when you play as much Tron as I do, you're bound to get lucky at least once. Platinum Angel, I think, was better than I anticipated. It is another 7-drop creature, which is important because it can sack Sanctum of Ugin when you cast it. And versus certain decks, I think it's actually going to be better than Wurmcoil. It fills sort of the same role in that it lets you... Wurmcoil is a better proactive play. It's better if you have like Tron into Wurmcoil than Tron into Platinum Angel, of course, because it's a faster clock. It does stuff when it dies. It gives you value. It's practically guaranteed value. It can't be Prismatic Ending. Neither of them can, but it can be pathed. They both can be pathed. So they like die to similar removal. But Platinum Angel kind of allows you this... It's more reactive. It lets you get this come-from-behind victory that Wurmcoil Engine may not provide. Because Wurmcoil Engine, one of the big problems is you can't gain the life from it immediately. So if you're playing against an aggressive burn deck and you're very, very low on life, if you play Wurmcoil as opposed to something like Thragtusk, you have to swing and you have to connect. And I've had burn players block, bolt their own guy, and then swing back lethal to get around to Wurmcoil. Whereas Platinum Angel demands removal, and it's a lot more fragile than Wurmcoil, but it's really... there's some potential there, I think. Now, I don't know that playing 2 Platinum Angels is correct. I don't know that playing... I don't know if playing 2 All Is Dust is correct. Like, I might swap out an All Is Dust for an O-Stone, and it's kind of personal preference, really, at this point. I might swap out an All Is Dust for a O-Stone. I might swap out a Platinum Angel, move the other Wurmcoil main deck, and then play like a Grafdigger's Cage on the side. I think that would be a completely valid configuration. But I really ended up liking this list. And of course, all of these are like modifiable, right? Like you can play a 3rd Warping Wail instead of a Platinum Angel. You can play a 3rd Warping Wail instead of an All Is Dust. If Warping Wail is going to help you in whatever metagame that you're playing. This version's playing 17 lands, which 17 lands with 61 cards, I can tell you, is almost certainly wrong. 17 lands, 60 cards, I've seen some Tron lists do that, and I feel like it's a little bit greedy, but at the same time, we really only care about the Tron pieces, and whatever support lands we need to get, to get to our 7 mana, to cast our Sylvan Scryings and Ancient Stirrings. And, I'm pretty pleased with this list. I had some doubts going in, but I ultimately like it. So, hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays in the afternoon, sometimes the evening. And generally, I've been playing a lot of Battle of Wits on stream. We've been doing some marbles on stream at the end of streams to get some viewer engagement. And it's a lot of fun. I do some shoutcasting. I wear some silly clothing, and... it's great. If you missed the Halloween stream, I definitely recommend you go back and watch the VOD. But other than that, you're all wonderful human beings. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of November. Thank you all so much, and if you guys want to see your name on this list, please check the link in the description below. Thank you.